guys, what's going on? My name is JC and this is the Cuban Redneck DIY channel. Thank you for stopping by, and if this is your first time here, know that this is a kind of a strange channel where we do cooking and grilling on Tuesdays, DIY stuff on Fridays. Welcome back to the garage. This is a Friday video. I would appreciate if you was to share, like, subscribe, comment, any. I'm really not really picky, but understand something. Hairy guys like myself don't look too good on tutus. So I have to rely on your kindness to grow the channel. With that said, it's early in the morning, actually a little bit too early to be making noise. Unfortunately, as you get older, you know, when I was 20, you couldn't get me to get up at 5 in the morning. You had to pay me to get up that early. But nowadays, I'm up like a spring, you know, 5, 6, you know, 5:36, no alarm clock. Sometimes, you know, sometimes I do sleep the morning, but very rarely. Anyways, it is kind of chilly out here. We had an overnight low of 65. What that means is the gardening season is over. So the plants are going away, but the gardening tools are not. So I've been looking at a gardening tool solution. This is one wall that I don't show that often, and I'm just not proud of it. So you know, kind of DIY guy has freaking tools laying against the wall. So anyways, I've been looking at some solutions. I went to Lowe's and they have a Craftsman one for about $100, $200, I'm sorry. I was over Home Depot as well. They have one for $400, I think it was, or $220. They didn't have one in stock for $229, but the one they had at the store was $400. I think that I can build a very affordable garden tool shed for, I don't know, $100. So we are going to run over to Lowe's and see if my friend Bob is working today, so he can rip a sheet of plywood for us and see if we can build a garden tool shed for about $100 or so. Check this out. Alright, so Bob is here. I already checked on him, brought him some coffee, and now it is time to get this plywood ripped. By the way, I came looking for 3/8, but they didn't have any on the shelf. 1132 is the next size up. That's just shy of 5/8, and that might be an issue because I don't have an 1132 router bit. I don't even think they make one, to be honest. Along with that, I'm picking up 6 $3 2x3s they have over at the front of the store, as well as some Thompson water seal. I can already see the smartass comments, and yes, I acknowledge that many in the trade may consider this garbage wood, but hey, we're on a budget here. Besides, after I treat it, if it lasts 10 years instead of 15, I am good with that, especially when I'm going to be saving over 75% on the bill compared to treated wood. Back at the house, the first thing we're going to do is something that I have seen old-timers that work on wood bolts and or do woodwork on bolts, and that involves clamping all the pieces together, force them straight, and spray them with an alcohol solution, then let them sit in the sun. I'm not sure if this will do anything to the overpriced $3 pieces of white pine that I purchased, but I think it's worth a try. What that says, I'm going to go ahead and strip 2 of the plywood sheets into 11 by 7/8 strips. This will be the size and the front of the garden tool shed. I should have done this back at Lowe's, but I wasn't 100% certain how far I wanted this tool shed to stake out of the wall. While at the table saw, we're also going to take the piece that we have left and cut it into 11 by 7/8 squares. These are for the lower extensions on the side. Next is the piece we're going to use to join the side of the garden shed and the extension. I'm targeting an overall length, or should I say height, of about 65 inches. However, depending on how high your roof is or how high your house is, a little bit taller, maybe 75 or so, will probably be better. Remember when I said that I was concerned about the 1132 thick plywood? Well, I had my reasons. You see, my idea was to make dados on all of these pieces and have the garden tool shed project come together like a Lego set. The use of dados helps to keep the water away from the edge of the plywood. That, along with some water sealing on the faces, makes for what I hope is a long-lasting tool shed. However, the 5/8 bit proved to be a little bit loose. And by the way, I stand corrected, they do make 1132 straight flutes for this particular type of dado, but I just don't own one. No problem, what I'm going to do is go ahead with the 5/8 bit and use liquid nail instead of wood glue. After getting all the pieces done with 2 passes to make dado 1/2 inch deep, we can do the size. The trick here is to not to cut the dado all the way to the edge. The nominal dimensions for the studs is 2.5 inches, and the longest screws that I have are 3.5. In order to get a little bit more bite, I drilled a 1/2 inch by 3/4 inch deep hole where all the cross members are going to be. This will not only hide and protect the screws from the weather, but also give me a little bit more bite in keeping the thing together. With all of the holes made, all we have to do is apply glue, assemble, clamp it, screw it all together, and let it rest overnight. Alright, it's the following day. Our pieces are dry. We have a little bit of gaps and things like that. And I think what I'm going to do, especially here at the edges, I'm going to use caulking, some kind of weather, something just to keep water from dripping into those holes. Other than that, we're good to go. We need to plug our holes and give it a good sanding, and we are good to go. To wrap up the day, I ended up running down to Lowe's once again and pick up something called White Lightning 3006. This is an all-weather caulking I have never used, but it was cheap, so I decided to try it out. After letting it dry overnight, I have to say that it works pretty good. The next step is to figure out if I can salvage the cut-off scraps from the side panels of the tool shed. Otherwise, I'm going to have to buy 2 more studs. After verifying the thickness, I went ahead and set up the blade height and did my first cut on the horizontal side. Then, with a runabout jig mounted on the fence, I ran the vertical side, which took a couple of passes to get the right depth, but it ended up being perfect. I glue that, and while it dries, we can get to work on the front panel, which is pretty much the same as the side panels. The only difference is I don't feel like letting this thing dry overnight, so I drilled down onto the plywood for instant results. Now that we have 2 side panels and a front panel for the garden tool shed, we can start the installation. We'll do this by fixing the top and bottom support. I cut 3/4 inch deep cups into the studs because I'm still up in the air as to how I'm going to organize the tools inside the shed. I don't want to have to deal with the head of the screws sticking out and getting in the way. And by the way, if you haven't already figured out, this is a wall-mounted floating garden tool shed, and for the mounted position, what I did is I split the difference between the top and the bottom and then mounted the studs 65 inches apart using top guns. The side panels are going to get held in place with a combination of glue and angle brackets. For ease of installation, I pre-mounted the brackets onto the side panels using 2x3 scrap cutoffs as templates. Since I am working by myself as usual, I mounted some flat plates to the top of the side panels. These will serve as extra hands and hold the panel in place while I screw it. After applying liquid nail to the side of both the top and bottom studs, I allow the side panel to hang while I fasten it. With the top and bottom secure, we can do the center bracket, which is held in place with the top gun. The other side is just a mirror. Now, when it comes to the front cross-bracing stud, I didn't think that the light gauge angle brackets I purchased would do the trick. So I cross-drilled the side panel using a piece of scrap as a template as I did before. I was not pleased with that either. I can see the wood twisting in its vertical axis in the near future, so I added a pocket screw at the bottom. For the front panel, I use the same bracket as I used to hold the side panels in place, but this time on the bottom. This will hold the front panel in place while I screw it. As you can see here, not everything is square, but that is not a problem. Some temporary cleats and a clamp and everything is good. As with the other screws, I countersunk these and plugged them with dowels. With the structure permanently mounted on the wall, we need to seal all the gaps with a weather-resistant caulking. For the roof, I'm going to use some treated fence board I have left over from the raised bed project. Maybe not my original choice, but these have been laying around for a while and I just want to use them. Although it doesn't look bad, I think I want to put a piece of roofing membrane or maybe even some thick nylon before I set this guy's permanent in place. Maybe even a little bit of a drop, I'm not sure, I need to sleep on that. For the floor, I'm going to use the same and then jump on the doors. And by the way, this is what it looks like installed. Please note that you need to leave a little bit of a gap between these boards. They are going to expand and contract quite a bit. As to the doors are easy to build, but I decided to make it hard on myself. You see, I have experienced a lot of plywood failure on boats, almost always having to do with water penetrating the edge. Since I have a piece of fence board left, I decided to use it. After sanding it smooth, I ripped it into 1132 strips, which I'm going to use as edging. Note that there are additional implications of doing this, including having to trim the panel in order to compensate for the added material, which in my case is a ½ inch. I will be adding this type of edging to the back, in other words the hinge side, as well as the top and bottom. For the front, I have no idea why, but I thought a bigger, more robust piece was required. But to be honest, the ½ inch fence board would have sufficed. Nevertheless, I opted for a leftover piece of 2x3. The first step was to set the blade height and the fence to 1132s. That is the thickness of the plywood. I then made cuts on both the horizontal and the vertical axis to create an 1132 rabbet. We can then proceed to ripping the piece in half and installing it with glue and brad nails just like the others. Mounting of the doors was a lot easier than I thought. I measured 7 inches from the top and from the bottom. Why 7? Oh, just because I believe in luck, no other reason. Placed the panel in place with a 3/16 shim at the bottom. I then pre-drilled the front side first to accommodate my $1.79 Harbor Freight T-hinges, mounted the hinge on the frame, then pre-drill and mount the door side. It started to get a little bit windy here and it looks like it's going to rain, but before quitting for the day, we need to add a stopper so that the doors don't swing past the frame. If they do, they can crack the frame or even pull the hinges from the frame. I solved this with a small piece of polypropylene in which I drilled a couple of holes and mounted it right at the center between the two doors. I'm going to have to add a tower bolt, which I don't have, to the inside so that you can pull the doors out. But one thing I do have is the latch for the outside. I got this one at Harbor Freight as well for $2.50. I'm more than likely going to have to paint it to keep it from rusting, but I still think it's a great value. After a little bit of a rain delay, and even though it is still somewhat cloudy, I decided to go ahead with the spraying of the Thompson water sealer. I'm using a sprayer for efficiency, but know that a brush or even a ruler will do just fine. Hey guys, the morning after, and I wanted to take a minute and show you the final project. Very pleased with the results. We got rained down pretty bad yesterday, and unfortunately this is the way it's going to look for a little bit. I completely failed to notice in the instructions of the water sealer that this thing needs, you need to leave it, let it dry for 30 to 45 days before you apply paint. So there's the roof. I'm more than likely going to be adding some kind of membrane, some shingles or something. I'm not quite, not 100% sure. Need to take a look at some options. But overall, very pleased with the final project. One thing I do want to show you is this edge here, which I didn't get. I completely forgot to press record when I was making that. But anyways, overall, very pleased. I hope this video is inspirational. We came in on the budget at $98, and I'm already planning a video for next week, so I hope to see you then. Please support this channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. Thank you.